Well, good morning. I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation that Glenise and Cheryl are going to have together. I'd just like to introduce Glenise. She's the State Director of Chaplaincy in Victoria, and Cheryl, you're a trainer.
Yes, I am.
Well, that's pretty exciting. And until today, we've never met. Glenise is, if I said old friend, I'm going to be in trouble. So I just say a friend that we've got to know over a little period of time, you know. I'd love to actually start with you, Cheryl.
Okay.
How did you get into chaplaincy?
Well, about 8-9 years ago, my father took his life by suicide. And the year before that, my husband had to go through chemo and transplants. And during that time, I had a lot of people try and love me, a lot of people try and help me. And their help actually caused greater pain. And I found myself just crying out to God, God, please help me to help people without hurting them.
Yes.
Because it's not easy. And through that, I end up finding myself in chaplaincy training. And that is when I came upon Pastor Glenise. I did the training. It was transformational and healing and hurting. And after the training, it was then that God says, now I want you to teach what I've taught you.
Fantastic.
And I find myself in this place, and our relationship has continued to blossom.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, Glenise, I know you've been involved with chaplaincy for about 12 years. How did you get into chaplaincy?
Well, I started when my hubby and I moved over here to Victoria, and we moved by the grace of God. We felt God calling us out of Adelaide and coming to Melbourne, and didn't know what that journey would look like. And after a year of being here, the bushfires happened.
So it's a
Black Saturday.
Yep.
And we were in a church where the then state director asked the different churches, do you have people, ministers that can go up and be chaplains? And I had no clue as to how to be a chaplain.
So you waved your little hand up and...
Put my hand up, and hubby and I actually went up the first few days, which was absolutely traumatic to see and view and see the pain in people. But that led me into this desire to be a chaplain.
Yeah.
I'd been a minister in the church for 25 years, but now suddenly
to make
I'm
a difference on the front line.
To make a difference on the front line. And so I rang up the national office and said, have you got any training? Yes, it's starting tomorrow. And I said, wow, tomorrow?
Yes.
I suppose I've missed out. They said, no, give us your credit card and we'll go for it. And so
money will make a lot of things happen, won't it?
It does.
I just want to actually, for those that are just joining us today, we're actually recording this here in Clifton Creek. And just in a private home, we're set up as a little studio. And I'm looking out a window there now, and on the hills around us, it's all been ravaged by fire. And you can see the recovery in the trees, and you can see certain things happening in people's lives. But for some people, it's like 12 months has gone, but there really hasn't been recovery. And trauma can happen in lives in so many ways. And today we want to look at how you can be helped, what you can do, what's possible to bring healing and restoration. And so I think, Glenise, with all the experience you've had, and I know a lot of that's been in that fire recovery, and you worked for a couple of years, didn't you, after that, was it? 18 months or something?
I was commissioned to go into all the areas east of the Melba, and to be able to just go up there 2 days a week and be a presence in the different areas.
Yes.
And that's what chaplaincy is. Chaplaincy is just being a presence.
Yes.
And just wandering around, talking to people, introducing yourself. And my role was also to get in touch with the providers that were in the area.
Yes.
And so we built an incredible relationship.
Yep.
And after trust was built, it was amazing how many people reached out.
And I think that's a key thing, Cheryl. You were saying that you had friends trying to help you
Yes.
deal with the trauma in your life.
Yes.
but they're causing more grief.
Yes.
Yes, and it's because sometimes people don't know what to do.
Yes.
We actually don't know what to do with people when they're hurting, and often we pull back and think, I don't know what to do, or they engage and say things that are actually more harmful.
Yes.
But it's the presence of someone being with you that actually says, tell me what happened.
Yep.
And we think, surely that couldn't help. But by relieving the pain inside and allowing someone to tell their story relieves the pressure within. It can be painful, certainly painful, but by having someone who wanted to be with me in my pain, to be with someone in that pain and to listen, really starts that healing process.
Yep. Well, I know last week when I was speaking at Redgum, I made a statement about pain leaks. Pain just doesn't stay inside of us. It seeps out of us and it touches all the relationships in our life, you know. So trauma, pain, grief, loss, whatever it is, can come into any of our lives in any way. It doesn't have just to be a fire. It can be someone walking out relationally. It can be through health, can be whatever. How does someone begin healing? Like, Glenise, where if I was sitting here and you're being this chaplain, right, how would you help me deal with something that's bigger than I can handle?
That is a really good question.
I thought so too.
Yeah, I thought you might have thought that.
Did we get that recorded? Yes.
Yes, I think we did.
Yes.
Lex, I think it's really important to build trust.
Yep.
And I think that's the starting point. If we're, it's like Cheryl said, just being present with someone, but not wanting to say things just for the sake of saying them.
Yep.
And I think quite often good-hearted people without good communication skills, or good-hearted people that want to help people that actually don't really understand the journey of grief, loss, trauma, all of those things, they end up getting stuck. And then they use cliches.
Yes.
You're going to be okay.
Yes.
Do you realise you're going to be okay?
Yes.
Well, unfortunately, that's not a good thing to say, because you don't know if they're going to be okay.
Yes.
How can we say someone's going to be okay? And especially this area has gone through incredible trauma of many losing their homes, their surroundings, their community, all of these things. And then COVID hits. Whoever thought that we'd go through COVID that none of us have experienced before? And so that in itself has brought a lot of added trauma, concern, fear, and loss of hope for people that have already gone through the bushfires, and now they're suffering from being in lockdown, or all sorts of things are happening in our lives. And one of the things you and I have talked about, Lex, is the compound grief, or the events that happen in our life that compound, and one grief, one loss, one trauma on top of the other. And if we're not a person who is willing to open up, we are more likely to isolate from people that actually can help us. And isolation can also then cause us to look to other things that are unhealthy in trying to calm us or stop the grief.
I just want to take you back for a moment. You said about someone trying to say this is going to be okay. And I think that comes from the human desire to make things right, right?
Yes.
So with the experience that you girls have had in helping people, where do you start? Right? How do you make a difference for somebody? You said trust.
Well, my point of reference is, once I've built the rapport, once I've built the trust with someone and they feel comfortable in my presence, then it's tell me your story.
Okay, and that's what you said before, Cheryl, about actually listening to someone's story, what a difference it can make.
Yeah, absolutely, because Every person's world is so important to God.
Yes.
God sees every single person, and he sees the pain and the anguish and the hopelessness,
Yep.
and he wants to meet them in that space.
But
to
how
be
does
with
God
them.
do that practically?
Well, that's where you and I and each other, we come alongside each other in a calming way, and we actually ask them, tell me what happened. Tell me your story. And having a presence of being with someone, it actually does help start to alleviate the pain, because a person feels like someone wants to be with me.
But what about the person who is hurting and doesn't want to revisit that pain,
Yes.
doesn't want to go back there, doesn't want to tell the story,
Yes.
because their way of surviving is just to shut it down.
Yes.
I'm just, it's behind me, I'm ignoring it. How do you help that person?
I love that question. Not just my chaplaincy started in the bushfires, but after that I was deployed up into Queensland,
Yep.
in Cyclone Yassi, the Toowoomba floods, all of those areas, and you walk around those ravaged areas and you meet people, and even some, because we we have these tabards that say chaplain
I
across
don't know
them.
what a tabard is, but I believe you.
It's like
I
a
understand.
neon sign.
I've seen the movies.
Yes, and I don't actually. Sometimes they're good, but sometimes I don't know that they are good. And some people, they just want to get away from
Yes.
you, and
Because you're an official person.
well, and they can see us as the God person as well.
Okay. Yep.
And they don't actually want to engage with a God person.
No.
And because why would God allow this to happen? All of those sorts of things happen. So let me tell you a little story. This is a beautiful story. There were two of us walking up into this area where the floods had just taken everything, and the army had gone before us, and they were going house to house, and people couldn't go into their homes until the army had gone in and bought out the freezers and fridges and all of those things for reasons that I'm sure you understand. And there was this family, there was an older lady who was around my age, and two younger women and a couple of little children. And we started to walk up, and their body language said, don't come near us. And I'm a bit of a persistent person, as I think you've discovered. But I walked up and just said, hi, my name's Glenise. Is there anything that we can do for you? And in a sarcastic voice, one of them said, well, if you can get those army guys to come in and hurry up and get the freezer out. And this is my mother's home. We've lost my mother and we've lost our sister. And so you can imagine the trauma. And I said, we'll see what we can do. And being polite, we just went on. But I did speak to one of the army guys that were about 5 houses down. And I said, as soon as you can, would you be able to get down there? And I told them the story. And so we just went on our way and did what we were doing. And when we came back, as we were coming back, the body language changed, and they said, oh, here are the chaplains. Thank you so much for what you did.
Yep.
And I said, what did we do? And they said, you got the army to come in and take the freezers and we can go in. And it was amazing.
Yes.
And the older lady, she just came up and gave me a hug.
Wow.
I'm going to get a bit emotional. I'm sorry. No, I'm not apologising. But I said, would you like me to just pray with you about your sister and your little niece? And she said, well, yes, I would, but don't let them see you praying for me.
Right.
And I said, well, why don't we just walk away and I'll put my arm around you. We'll just walk as if we're just talking. And I just prayed God's peace over that whole family. And we left there knowing that we'd made a difference.
Yes.
That's powerful.
It is powerful.
Lex.
It is.
And those people, I know, when we moved out, other chaplains came in, and they were able to minister to them and help them in their journey.
That's so key. Like, it's a long process of recovery.
It's a process.
And like here, even locally, you know, our fire recovery team are still working. Like Julie White, local chaplain, right? Every Tuesday she's been coming out here to Clifton Creek and But if you just step into someone's life and then walk away because there's no funding or there's whatever, excuse me, and I think that's the power of a local church.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the community. We're meant to do life in community.
Yes.
And I know there are people surrounding us, and if you're watching now and you're not in community, we want you to be part, and it's because we care. We're not wanting to take anything from someone. We're wanting to add to people's lives,
That's
you know. And I know that Julie, what she's previously done, her ongoing things, it's the consistency of being in someone's life, you know. But what about the person that doesn't have anyone, that is struggling and has nothing to do with fires, but it can just be purely relational, you know. And you're saying, you know, Cheryl, about God loving us. Well, how does that get expressed? Like, how can we help someone? What advice would you give?
That is a really good question as well. I had a lady when we were in the bushfires at Black Saturday, and she said, well, you know, you're the God person. Why did God allow this to happen? And my response was, I can't answer this question. It's too difficult for me.
Yep.
But I said, one of the things I do know is that I love God, and I know He cares for you.
Yes.
And He's arranged for me to be here,
Yes.
so that I can be a presence for anybody who wants me to pray with them, to be with them, to talk to them about the love of God, and realise that He has a compassion for you and a love for you that you would never know until you connect with Him.
So the person that does know this God we're talking about, and they're part of a church or they know stuff, what can they do to bring health emotionally into their world, struggling with whatever loss or whatever's caused pain? What can they do that would make a difference for them?
Well, as Cheryl knows, one of my statements is awareness is 90% of our solution.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is tapping into the resources that are available.
Yep.
And you talked about Julie. Julie is a resource.
She is.
And she's an amazing resource. She did the training with us, and she understands the value of reaching out and making sure that we work with providers, whether that be mental health workers, whether that be the council, the local council, whatever that means.
Yes.
We are people, chaplains especially, are trained to be able to know your community, know the resources in your community, and help you to tap into those resources. Because a lot of people don't understand what's available to them. And what an incredible resource you guys have been. I'm blown away by what you've done as a local church. And I think, for me, that's the essence of faith in action. And we can have faith and sit on our backsides and do nothing, but we can have faith that actions us to do what Jesus told us to do. And to be the feet, the heart, the love, the hands that bring that hope, truth, and support. And so I think that's who we are.
It is who we are.
I think that's who you are.
Yep. So, Cheryl, when I asked you and we began, and you said that your dad took his own life.
Yes, he did.
How old was your dad when he did that? When that happened?
He was in his 50s.
In his 50s.
Yeah.
So you have walked personally what Cheryl, what I know who you are, what Glenise, what Glenise was talking about a moment ago, right?
Yes.
So that's not an experience that everyone goes through. It's an extreme experience to lose a dad and know that he chose to take his life and to permanently leave you. What are some of the things that really helped you?
As Pastor Glenise was saying, awareness is 90% of the solution. As time has gone by, I've actually learnt and become aware that my father was in pain. And he didn't talk. He didn't reach out. He thought he could do it all. He thought he could solve the problems. He didn't say, I need help. He didn't say, I'm really struggling with this. He didn't say, what do you think? Can you help me with some solutions? He never reached out. And he had such a burden. And these are burdens sometimes that are way too big for us. We're not meant to carry the weight of the world and all these traumas that are happening around us. It's too big for one person. And so when looking back, being aware that he had no relationships around him.
Yes.
We're created for relationship. And none of us are perfect, but we need each other.
We do.
And that's why I talk about coming alongside someone else and just talking. We might think we're burdening someone with what we say, but it's actually for the person with the pain, it's relieving the leaking you talked about.
Yes,
It's relieving the leaking.
Yep.
And for the person who is making themselves available to be present and to listen, you're actually making that person feel like they have significance in the world.
Yes.
It's amazing.
So going back into your situation, right?
Yes.
You had friends that spoke into you that didn't help,
Yeah.
right? I assume you did find someone that did help?
Yeah, because, yes, Pastor Glenise and a few others,
Okay.
but they weren't trying to fix me.
No, but they were listening.
Yeah.
So beside them listening,
Yes.
that wasn't the end of your journey of recovery, right?
Oh, absolutely not. No.
So what are some of the keys that you personally found helped you? So
Yeah.
we've done with the people listening.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And then from there, having them say, have you thought about getting some help?
Yes.
That was a big step to take, to actually go, I need to speak to someone.
Yep.
So I went and spoke to a counsellor
Yes.
for some period of time.
Yep.
And that took time, but that was really good. So there's this layered effect of support.
Yes.
It was your church.
Yes.
It was family. It was the counselling. It was actually personally then reflecting on all of this.
Right.
Personal reflection with the voices around you,
Yes.
good voices
Yep.
around you, really does help you journey to a place of recovery.
Was there
Yeah.
was there a place you got to when you said, I've actually come more than I thought I would, and I'm actually starting to feel whole again? Was there a turning point, or is it just a gradual process?
It was probably gradual.
Yes.
It was very gradual. Like when something happens and we go, hindsight is a great teacher.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in a moment, but it's a moment, it's little days of lightness that come.
Yep.
Little days when you feel like you can breathe a little bit easier.
Yes.
And then I found myself going, oh my goodness, look where I've come. I don't cry all day anymore.
Yes.
It's so gradual.
Yes. And I think that the brilliance of the God factor in all this is that what God does in us, it begins something we want to impart with others, to share with others, to help others. So Glenise, for someone listening right now, watching now, right, and they're somewhere in this journey of recovery, what are the next steps for them? Like, what's something that they can do? Because let's assume that someone has heard this story. Where do you go beyond that? What tools do you give people? How do you help people?
So again, resourcing
Yeah.
is fundamental, and depending on the resources that are available. And I know in country, rural areas, some resources are they're limited.
Yeah, and people don't know where to start.
No, they
right?
don't know where to
So
start.
let's assume they don't have any resources
Yep.
within themselves, just a human being without any resources. What can they do?
Okay, so here's the starting point.
Yes.
Right here at Red Gum.
Yep.
You guys are putting an incredible message out there into a community where people might not know where to start.
Yes.
And here we are talking about, here's the starting point.
Yes.
Connecting with people that can
Yes.
actually help you.
Yes.
because it's important for all of us. It's very easy for us to isolate and not talk.
Yeah.
I think that can be more of a comfort zone sometimes for
Yes.
some of us. I don't want to talk. Why would I need to talk? One of the things about grief that I've learned is that grief is an inward expression of the pain that you're carrying.
Yes.
Mourning is another layer. Mourning is an outward expression
Yep.
of what you're carrying inwardly.
Yeah.
And if you don't
So
go...
when you say mourning, what do you mean by mourning?
Mourning is an outward expression of saying, I'm feeling this. This is what I feel.
So that would be like someone crying?
That's right. It's an outward expression of what you're feeling inside,
Yes.
rather than taking alcohol, drugs, or whatever else it is that you're using to
Yep.
dull the pain.
Yep.
We encourage people to talk and tell their story, so that helps them to bring out that pain, that
Yes.
inner pain. And that helps us then to say, I can't imagine what that must feel like. Tell me a little bit more about
Okay.
that. And when we help people dig deeper, it helps that to all come to the surface. And it's an amazing what relief that brings.
Okay.
Amazing. I've
Yes.
experienced myself
Yes,
personally,
yes.
and we don't have time for all those stories. But grief is a journey I think we all go through
Yes.
at some stage in our life.
Yes.
And the older you get, the more grief you experience
Yes.
over the years. And I think it's wonderful that we can learn how to do this journey. And connection with people, having good support systems around us, but having people that are trustworthy. Some people live in toxic relationships.
Yep.
And we teach people that are in toxic relationships, how can you actually put some good boundaries in, communication skills in? Can we help you with that? They're tools that will help people start managing their relationships.
Yep.
And knowing when to say no. No is an acceptable answer.
Yep.
And a lot of us will say yes for peace sake,
Yes.
rather than being peacemakers. It's peace at all costs.
Yes.
And they'll say yes because they want the peace at all costs.
Yes.
And I was one like that many years ago. But I learned that God called us to be a peacemaker, which means if you are abusing me in any way or saying anything to me that's toxic, I have the right to say, I don't feel respected when you treat me that way. And that's what grief does. It teaches us so much to do things well and walk this journey in a healthy way.
Yep.
Does that answer your question?
It does. I had this thought recently that someone that has been through grief and is still carrying it, when you see the grief of someone else, say if you go to a funeral and you start to allow someone else's grief to touch you, it's like it softens within you as well.
It does.
And that allows, because a lot of the time we'll shut stuff down, right, to protect, because we don't know how to deal with it. We just don't know how to deal with this stuff. And yet sometimes if you're feeling someone else's hurt,
Pain.
it can soften within you. And that's a moment in time that if you can allow that to be the place where you then share that with someone else, because we keep coming back to sharing, right? Yep. Not everyone has someone to share with.
No.
But that's why, say, Red Gum, for instance, and the other local churches in our community, we exist to be those people, right?
Yes.
And it's not, you don't have to wait till you've got it all together to reach out. In fact, just get desperate. Just
Yes.
get desperate enough, yeah.
Yes. And again, and if I can just talk about chaplaincy for a moment, Chaplaincy Australia has a footprint all over Australia.
Yes.
And I'm excited and love the work of the ministry of chaplains.
Yes.
And I think chaplains are unique. They are the church in the community.
Yep.
And you're a chaplain. okay, you might be the pastor of the church, but you have a chaplain's heart. You've got the same heart as a chaplain. And a chaplain is called to care.
Yes.
And what does that mean? And what does that look like? It's learning how to have empathy with those that are journeying. And if we don't have compassion, Lex, we're not going to do anything.
Well, it's interesting. Over the years, I've had people say to me, look, could you pray for me to have compassion for people that are hurting? I said, no, won't do it. I said, our role is to get you very close to people that are hurting.
Yes.
Because if you have God's Spirit inside of you, all you got to do is get beside someone that's hurting, and it just flows naturally.
It does.
You don't have to work it up. It's just there, you know. And I think if we as God's kids can just get close enough to the hurt in our world, God gets to do stuff that is bigger than what we can understand, you know. And I love the fact that you guys train, like Cheryl, you train people. You crack the whip and make it all happen. You know, you're the hard, harsh woman. You know, Cheryl's this lovely, gentle, soft person.
I want to be more like her when I grow up.
No.
I want to be more like you.
You both have your own areas of brilliance.
We do.
You do. You know, and I just thank you for coming into our community for the role of chaplaincy, which this year we're looking at. It's a thing called getting 75% ready as a church.
Absolutely.
To be able to ready to handle any stuff that's going on. And that's the big ticket items like, you know, fire, flood, all that. But it's the everyday stuff that most people get caught up in. And so I just want to thank you for being here today. I know in a conversation like this, it's like we go so far, but we don't go far enough.
No.
And sometimes it really does, sitting down with a person, that's really where it begins and ends in some ways too, you know. Is there anything that I didn't ask or you would like to say, Cheryl, that as we're winding up?
I just feel that we can't shy away from our humanity.
Yes.
We don't have to be ready to speak to someone. Someone wants to speak to someone else who's real.
Yes.
Let's just be you.
Yes.
Just be us, because then people feel safe.
Yep.
No one wants to speak to someone who's got it all together, because then you feel judged.
Yep.
And so being human, being broken is, you are the best person for someone else to speak to.
Yep.
So being human in our weaknesses is actually the most beautiful place to start a conversation.
Yep. I think our humanity is attractive, but I think it's the God factor that makes the difference.
Yes.
You can be very human and broken, and you're trying to reach out to someone who's broken, and it's two broken people, and it doesn't go that far. But if you can hear someone's story out of some of the healing and the wholeness God's done in you, and you can see God's hand in things, you can see a God factor, you can bring that into the situation, I find that makes a really big difference.
I think, Lex, that's what we were talking about, presence.
Yes.
It's not just our human presence. It's the presence of God in us.
Yes.
And we can stand up against a wall, which is an experience when we lost our second son to cancer a number of years ago. And the minister came and just stood up against the wall and stayed there for at least an hour, just being present.
Yes.
And to just know the God person was standing there was an amazing relief, especially for my hubby, because it was his son, it was my stepson.
Yes. So how old was he when he died?
He was 34.
Wow. Yep.
And just having someone present and knowing it's a God factor. It's amazing when we go through trauma, even if we don't acknowledge God before the trauma, it's amazing what trauma will do for people that want to just say, God help.
Yes.
And that might be as simple as they say, and suddenly a chaplain walks in or a pastor walks in. That's the God help.
Yes, it is.
That's the God providing the door to answer that prayer. Oh, help me, God.
Yes.
And suddenly, in a day or two or a moment later, someone's sitting in front of you and you're recognizing the fact that, oh my gosh, I feel some relief here. That's the God factor.
It is. And like, we've got a guy, I just love him. His name's Pete. He's part of Red Gum.
He's amazing.
And so his gift in life is sitting and hearing someone's stories. He's a trained counsellor, professional, but he's also a chaplain now.
He is.
With Chaplaincy
Australia.
here in this area. And it's I marvel at that gift, because some people can do it as part of their life's expression. We can all listen to someone's story, all of us, right?
Yep.
Some people, that's just their specialty. And I really appreciate what Pete does, what Julie does, what you guys do in the training. And I just want to thank you for what you bring to planet Earth in the way you choose to live your life. It's very easy to just live our life doing what we want to do. But to share your energy and your time with others and build into others, I think is fantastic. And so thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you for having
Thank
us.
you so much. It's been
And
lovely.
we'll, you're going to hear a lot more from Chaplaincy in the year as we start to unwind things this year, and the continuing in our community, not just in the fire recovery, but any area. So, so thank you for being part of things this morning. And I'm going to hand back to Dave, and he's going to lead us out with a song, and we'll catch you together. For those that are live streaming, that's fine, but together next Sunday is going to be brilliant in the Hub, Delmhoy Street. If you've never been, if you've just been watching this live, come along. We're not that weird. We are wonderful, but yeah, come along. Thank you, girls. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.